Hello! Hello. I'm going to just start. I'm not sure if anybody's here yet. We'll see. I see a couple of viewers waiting. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Hello. Welcome to this stream. I'm once again talking about Taylor Swift and this whole Blake Lively thing. I have some links already in my description that we're gonna go over together, and I'm gonna. Okay, what I'm gonna do. Ooh, my light is falling. I'm always like so dark on the side of my face that the lamp isn't pointed at when I'm streaming, and then I look later and it's so dark. But what I want to do is I want to start with the People article with what Baldoni's lawyer is claiming. Perfect. All right, good. I'm glad that the volume sounds good. Let me let me just pull this up. So we're gonna start with what the lawyer is claiming, because this has escalated a little bit since our last stream, because our last stream was about the statement that Taylor's publicist, most likely Tree Payne, put out, and things have gone since then. So Justin Baldoni's lawyer is doubling down on his claim that Blake Lively pressured Taylor Swift for a public show of support, now adding that it had to do with Lively's absence from the 2025 Super Bowl. Brian Friedman, an attorney for Baldoni, asserted in a May 14th letter to Judge I just said Louis J. Lyman in a wrong order. Judge Louis J. Lyman, that a source who is highly likely to have reliable information told him that Lively's lawyers allegedly made extortionate threats to the law firm representing Swift, demanding the influential singer release a statement of support for Lively. So are any of these links to that original article about it or not? Okay. No, they're just to the information tags for each of them. Lively's lawyers quickly filed back, denying the allegations. "This is categorically false," said attorney Mike Gottlieb. "We unequivocally deny all of these so-called allegations, which are cowardly sourced to supposed anonymous sources and completely untethered from reality." In a subsequent letter to the judge, Lively's legal team called for Friedman's letter to be tossed out, writing, "The apparent intent of the Friedman letter is to launder scandalous and defamatory allegations about Ms. Lively and opposing counsel into the press by abusing the court's docket." However, on Thursday, May 15th, Friedman doubled down on his claim, this time filing a signed affidavit under the penalty of perjury to shed more light on his unnamed source and more details about the allegations. In the affidavit, Friedman claims to have had an hour-long phone call on Valentine's Day, February 14th, with a person very closely linked to Taylor Swift, whom he still left unnamed. Why would he have sat on this since Valentine's Day with the frequency at which this guy throws shit to the wall, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that Friedman would have sat on this since Valentine's Day if it was real. I don't think it's real. I don't think this is a true thing. I think he's fucking lying. I think he is not naming his source because he knows that once people know who the source is, it'll be somebody clearly unreliable. The source told Friedman, per the affidavit, that Swift's lawyer was called by Lively's lawyer, who allegedly requested on Ms. Lively's behalf that Taylor Swift make a social media statement in support of Ms. Lively, given her absence from the Super Bowl that year, and stated that if Ms. Swift failed to do so, Ms. Lively would release 10 years of private text with Ms. Swift. The person also claimed that Lively asked Swift to delete their past text messages 4 or 5 months prior. Again, this does not strike me as true. This does not feel like a true thing. That's not real. I'm sorry. There are ways that something sort of similar to this might have happened, right? Like it's possible. It's for sure possible that a statement was made for like a request for a support statement, which we'll get back to that. But if Miss Swift failed to do so, Ms. Lively would release 10 years of private text with Miss Swift. No, I don't believe that anybody is threatening Taylor Swift with that. I believe, if anything, if this came up in a conversation with Blake Lively's lawyers, it might have been something to the effect of like, hey, they're clearly going nuts over there on the opposing counsel, and therefore you might want to be aware of the fact that our messages might get leaked because they might put it on a fucking website. But like, I do not believe. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust the chat because I realize it's kind of not lined up. But I do not believe that they said Blake Lively is going to leak 10 years worth of text messages. Blake Lively has not at any point in all of this ever like leveraged her friendship with Taylor Swift, including in the length of their friendship much prior to this, right? Like that's not how their relationship operates. Blake, why would Blake blackmail? Why would Blake blackmail with 10 years worth of private text with the godmother of her children? Friedman added that he was put in touch with the unnamed source via a mutual friend who informed me that the individual wanted to talk, and they've had several phone calls since. Judge Lyman granted Lively's motion to strike Friedman's letter and affidavit on May 15th, calling it improper and irrelevant to any issue before this court. He added, counsel is advised that future misuse of the court's docket may be met with sanctions. Gottlieb, Lively's lawyer, says in a statement to People, May 15th, another day, another bogus filing designed for clickbait. We reiterate our unequivocal denial. He adds that Freeman has now admitted his allegations rely completely upon a source, no matter who it is, that doesn't even claim to have witnessed the conversations that Friedman describes, making his triple hearsay statement as unreliable as information reported from children in a game of telephone. Very good. Very good, Gottlieb. These claims remain completely untethered from reality. To be clear, the conversations as described did not happen, and we will hold Mr. Friedman accountable for his misconduct. And then I think we're just going back through things here. Lively, 37, filed her lawsuit against It Ends With Us co-star Baldoni, 41. They all say co-star and not director and boss. It's just interesting. And he followed with a $400 million countersuit of his own. The actress was later noticeably absent from the Super Bowl, where Swift showed up to cheer on boyfriend Travis Kelce. The longtime pals had made a splashy appearance together at the big game in 2024. After it was revealed that Swift, 35, had been issued a subpoena in Lively's saga with Baldoni, the singer's spokesperson made a May 9th statement distancing Swift from It Ends With Us and legal drama, which we read on the last stream. Swift claimed her rep never set foot on the set of this movie. She was not involved in any casting or creative decisions. She did not score the film. She never saw an edit or made any notes on the film. She did not even see It Ends With Us until weeks after its public release, and was traveling around the globe during 2023 and 2024, headlining the biggest tour in history. The connection Taylor had to this film was permitting the use of one song, My Tears Ricochet. Swift's rep continued, adding that this document subpoena is designed to use Taylor Swift's name to draw a public interest by creating tabloid clickbait instead of focusing on the facts of the case. When Lively was asked about Swift's involvement in the project during an August 2024 interview on CBS Morning, she said the singer, who is godmother to her 4 kids with Ryan Reynolds, was with me throughout this whole process. So I think that, for better or worse, she, experienced the whole thing with me, which I don't think contradicts Taylor not physically fucking being there, because they're friends. They're friends. The thing is that he gets to file this kind of shit, and even if it gets swatted down, it started a whole new round of press about Blake and Taylor not being friends anymore, right? Which, by the way, I'm gonna make a prediction. I bet we're gonna see Taylor Swift and Football Man out and about this weekend. I bet we will. I bet there will be some kind of paparazzi walk or something like we saw last time Taylor's name was getting dragged up, because I think one thing Taylor Swift's PR is doing is they are trying to very quickly push down and make worthless the headlines that are being paid for about Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. Once you have started paying attention to what Tree Payne does as her job, you start to notice the patterns in when people are talking negatively about Taylor, and then there are paparazzi walks or little fluff stories. I have a feeling, rather than seeing a direct like, and of course Taylor Swift supports Blake Lively, we're going to see like a Taylor Swift news moment that has nothing to do with Blake Lively, and that's still going to be in support of Blake Lively because it's going to be to push these articles down. But the thing is I wanted to talk about this really good post on Baldoni Files. This is from Advanced Property 749. And they posted a lot of really, really great things. I read this morning and I was impressed. So they said, 1, how would Blake leaking Taylor's personal texts hurt Taylor without destroying Blake in the process? 2, why would Blake ask her lawyer to extort, blackmail, tamper with witnesses, intimidate them, and destroy evidence? Wouldn't it make more sense for her to do it herself if she were that reckless? 3, is this Friedman's desperate attempt to gain access to privileged work product between attorneys, or was he just embarrassed that what he was asking for was the definition of work product and privileged material? 4, if the source is so reliable, why not file a proper motion to raise these serious allegations about Lively's attorney's misconducts? 5, how would Tree's statement make any sense if any of these allegations were true? Because the timing indicates that when she made the statement, she was aware of the subpoena. 6, why is there always a Taylor-related headline right after a negative docket update for Wayfarer's side? 7, why are they so desperate for a statement from Taylor? Is it for PR? Is it only for PR? Is there any legal motivations behind it? Is her silence making it hard for them to argue she's Blake's weapon? Is it because they want to have something on her to link it to this case, and right now they don't have anything? Or is it personal? Meanwhile, also enjoy some Tay lyrics. Past me, I want to tell you not to get lost in these petty things. Your nemesis will defeat themselves before you get the chance to swing. Nobody asked, but I don't think she's going to make a statement about this. Taylor Nation might release a cat video though. Which I agree. I think this is astute. Every point in this I agree with, but especially some of these images that they decided to include with this post. So first of all, this is threads from More with MJ. No matter how you feel about this case, think about the impact. That filing made millions of people believe Taylor and Blake are in a fight. It made people think Blake threatened Taylor. It made people assume Taylor is against her, all based on anonymous sources. Swifties were smarter than this. Taylor knows what it's like to have the media twist things. She's spent a career fighting that. So let's not rush to do the same, especially to someone she's called a best friend for over a decade. Maybe this filing was just someone doing their job, but the way it landed, it's being used to spin a story that hurts real people, and we owe it to Taylor and to Blake and to each other to think before we pile on. But then also, this is the other thing that that this Redditor added that I thought was fantastic. I didn't even think about this. I did not even think about this, even though from the moment that Taylor released this statement, I knew that it was about more than just the concert in Vienna. But I will discuss this just a little bit more for the sake of anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about here. If you're a Swiftie, you likely already know about this. But this summer, when Taylor Swift was on her Massive Eras tour, there was like a terrorist attack that was like caught and thwarted. And she had some shows that were going to be done in Vienna that were canceled because of that, because they didn't feel like it was safe. And Taylor did not make like a big statement right away about those shows in Vienna being canceled. She kind of just canceled and moved on with the rest of the tour. And some people were really mad about that because they felt like she should have made more of a statement. So when she did finally post, she was fucking pissed. She was mad. She was mad that people were angry at her for not making a statement. And I also, because of like the timing of all of this, this is summer of 2024. So at the time of all of this going on, this is after Kamala Harris has taken over the presidential campaign, and everybody was expecting every single pop star in the world to immediately endorse, right? And Taylor, she always waits until after like debates and stuff anyway. But hang on, I have to clear my throat and it's gonna be loud. Okay, sorry, I just needed to mute for that. Anyway, it was not abnormal for Taylor Swift not to be making a statement until closer to the end of the election cycle. And then she put this statement out that was purportedly and like definitely in part about the Vienna thing, but that I also took to mean it's about other things as well. And the other thing that I took it to mean was that she was saying she wasn't going to endorse the Democrat before she finished the rest of her shows, some of which were in like pretty Southern and Republican states. So I thought adding this into the conversation is just such a good point, because here we go. London was the first show after the Vienna shows were canceled. So Taylor posted, "Walking on stage in London was a roller coaster of emotions. Having our Vienna shows canceled was devastating. The reason for the cancellations filled me with a new sense of fear and a tremendous amount of guilt because so many people had planned on coming to those shows. But I was also so grateful to the authorities because thanks to them, we were grieving concerts and not lives. I was heartened by the love and unity I saw in the fans who banded together. I decided that all my energy had to go toward helping protect the nearly 500,000 people I had coming to see the shows in London. My team and I worked hand in hand with the stadium staff and British authorities every day in pursuit of that goal, and I want to thank them for everything they did for us. Let me be very clear. I am not going to speak about something publicly if I think doing so might provoke those who would want to harm the fans who come to my shows. In cases like this one, silence is actually showing restraint and waiting to express yourself at a time when it's right to do so. My priority was finishing our European tour safely, and it is with great relief that I can say we did that. And then London felt like a beautiful dream sequence. All 5 crowds at Wembley Stadium were bursting with passion, joy, and exuberance. The energy in that statement was like the most giant bear hug from 92,000 people each night, and it brought me back to a place of carefree calm up there." I have to say, if you've spent much time consuming the kind of things that Taylor Swift posts on social media, the "let me be very clear" portion, this is harsh for her as far as I'm concerned. Like this was a harsh statement that she was making, and that, like I said, it is so harsh and so direct with the "let me be clear" and also with the "in cases like this one" and not it being just this specific thing. I knew when I saw this statement last summer that she was talking about more than just the Vienna show. And I assumed that it was because she was talking about the Vienna show and also the election. And I think that's true. But I also think that she was talking about the Vienna show, the election, and also potentially her friend Blake Lively, who she knew that if she made a public statement supporting, she would be dragged into this whole defamation bullshit. Like, I do not think that it's a crazy stretch to think that that was something that was on her mind during this. And I also don't, again, a reason why I don't believe that that Blake was trying to extort her or anything. I think they've talked about this. I think they've talked about the fact that like Taylor should wait and have restraint and support, you know, maybe if she comes in as a witness, or maybe even just like she's supporting her behind the scenes and Blake has decided that that's enough. Like I don't believe that there is a tension that has not been spoken about between those women about whether or not Taylor Swift supports her. I think that whether or not Taylor Swift does it in public is a question of like how much worse the legal battle gets for Blake. And also, I saw somebody point this out. This might even be in this same Reddit thread that I was reading this morning, but somebody pointed out, you know, Taylor Swift makes a statement and supports Blake Lively, and then what happens if all the Swifties like start trying to if all the Swifties start trying to support Blake all of a sudden, then they get to do their little headlines about like, oh, Taylor, Blake Lively has deployed her dragon. Here's her little dragon, Taylor Swift, just like she always said would happen. Like, it's a fucking trap. It's a fucking trap. Because anything Taylor says now, everybody is gonna say, they're gonna say, they're going to say, no matter what Taylor Swift did, that this is exactly what Blake was threatening, even though the fucking dragon texts were always in the context of these people fight for me and they will protect and fight for you too. But we have forgotten that because we think it's really fun to pretend like it's like terrible that Blake Lively referred to herself as having dragons or whatever the fuck. Yeah, it's like she was scolding. I agree. I think so too. Well, yeah, this story got millions of eyes. One thing I noticed is that after the letter was sent, it took minutes for these publications to post about it. I think in the motion to strike, the team pointed out that it was 5 minutes from the letter being sent and the first publication, which was 40 plus paragraphs, which even with AI, it takes more than 5 minutes to schedule and post the dang thing. Also, the publications that first started posting were all go-tos of both Nathan and Friedman. I can't imagine these news organizations getting so far away with presenting Friedman's anonymous source as fact. Yeah. I think actually that's probably why they're so pissy about pretending like Blake Lively like leaked things to the New York Times or whatever, is because that is the Friedman move, is that they're leaking shit. As soon as they, before they even file it, they're leaking it. And it's bullshit that's not even real, but that they know makes big splashy headlines. And then also they had one more Taylor Swift quote. There's no point in actively trying to quote unquote defeat your enemies. Trash takes itself out every single time. Taylor Swift. So I loved this post. It is it's linked in the description. I'm not logged in on my laptop, or else I would have upvoted. But yeah, it's a really good. Yeah, as a Swiftie, this is why I don't believe that her silence means she knows Blake lied. She most likely is waiting to show her support where it matters, in court. Also, from the first court filing, Friedman has positioned Swift as one of the people... Yeah, this is exactly what I was saying. I think this is the one I saw earlier. Friedman has positioned Swift as one of the people who threatened Baldoni to help Lively steal the film. If she speaks up too much even to deny this, then it furthers the narrative that Swift is helping to destroy him by siding with her friend. Friedman has basically checkmated her and her team. They cannot make a move without appearing to confirm one of his allegations. I totally agree with this. Daily Mail probably has the story ready. Blake unleashes her dragon. Swifties are attacking Justin Baldoni. I've got to hand it to Friedman. No matter what Taylor does, it will look bad for Blake. And then somebody else has a really good point. Except Taylor doesn't have to move. She doesn't have to do anything. That's the whole issue with Friedman's strategy. Blake doesn't need Taylor's support, and no one actually wants Taylor Swift testifying at the trial if she doesn't absolutely have to be there. Of course, if Blake actually coerced her to destroy evidence, she'll need to testify, but if the statements in Friedman's letter are incorrect, then it actually hurts his ability to get a subpoena. I really hope that this was like one step too far, and that it means that they get fucking nothing from Taylor. Like, I hope that Taylor is dismissed from all of this. I had said that in a stream the other day. I said that I hoped that they're able to just dismiss Taylor Swift's involvement, and our favorite nuanced corner lawyer, Fisher Friend, said that that's totally possible. And I think especially because we know Taylor's lawyers don't come to play, that I think that is possible, now that I've gotten that confirmation. As someone who was affected by the Ariana Grande concert attack, I thought Taylor did the appropriate response. I think so too. I think she did the best she possibly could with that. And it was really unfair for people to like be criticizing that so much while she was actively still in the middle of the tour. That bothered me for her a lot. Taylor truly doesn't mess when it comes to her own safety, but also her fans' safety. Yes, and I'm sure her friend also. Sometimes it's more supportive to be silent when your friend asks for your silence. I agree. I think also, I mean, we've seen from Taylor, from Blake's statements where she's said, she's not her statements, I'm sorry, but in what she's filed, where she's like specifically holding back the names of the other women to try to protect them. Yeah, I believe that they might have had a conversation where they decided that it would be more harm to both of them for her to get involved in this. Like, that just makes sense to me. And then, okay, so this is the rest of that thread that we were reading earlier from More with MJ on Threads. I'm just going to read this too. I think it's good. I know everybody here, nobody is watching this here and like needing to be convinced, but I think it's good to go over these posts. And I'm not on Threads, but it seems like Threads is really where a lot of the more pro Blake Lively things are happening. So More with MJ. Swifties, please read this before you believe the headlines. Blake Lively's legal team just filed a letter motion to strike, explaining exactly what happened with that viral letter, and they're right. In my opinion, this wasn't a legal argument. It isn't a normal filing. Here's what Blake's team says. On behalf of our client, Blake Lively, we respectfully move to strike the letter signed by Mr. Brian Friedman and filed earlier today. That letter, which was not filed with any evidentiary support of any kind, much less anything under oath, falsely accuses Ms. Lively and her counsel of engaging in witness tampering and evidence spoliation based on an undisclosed anonymous source. Ms. Lively requests that this that the court strike the Friedman letter pursuant to its inherent power to control and to strike material from its docket that is abusive or otherwise improper under the circumstances. It should be unnecessary to respond to anonymously sourced, baseless allegations recklessly leveled without any supporting evidence. It is worth stating for the record, however, as a legal matter, the Friedman letter is... Oh, sorry, I skipped a line. It is worth stating for the record, however, that each of the allegations in the Friedman letter is unequivocally and demonstrably false. As a legal matter, the Friedman letter is improper. It does not seek any form of relief. It is irrelevant to any motion currently pending before the court and serves no legitimate purpose. It is not useful to the court in any respect. Ms. Lively filed a letter to which the Friedman letter purports to respond as a courtesy to inform the court about motion to quash proceedings that Venable commenced in another federal court and to preserve her own right to object to the third-party subpoena. But she did not ask the court to take any action, and her letter did not merit or warrant any response from Mr. Friedman, let alone one that purports to manufacture a conspiracy theory in order to obtain communication from opposing counsel via a third party. The apparent intent of the Friedman letter is to launder scandalous and defamatory allegations about Ms. Lively and opposing counsel into the press by abusing the court's docket and avoiding the order requiring attorneys in this case to comply with Rule 3.6 of the New York Rules of Professional Conduct. Within minutes of the Friedman letter appearing on the court's docket at 1:50 p.m., media outlets began publishing stories concerning the Friedman letter, including one that posted a 40-plus paragraph article at 1:55 p.m. that asserted as a fact that Ms. Lively threatened to expose Taylor Swift's private texts unless she publicly sided with her in Justin Baldoni feud. During a hearing on February 3rd, 2025, this court explained to the parties that it would intervene if it turns out that this ends up being litigated in the press in a way that would prejudice the opportunity of the parties to a fair trial. The court should promptly strike the Friedman letter from the docket to avoid exactly the result it presaged at that initial meeting. And then saying whether to deny or grant a motion to strike is vested in the trial court's sound discretion. Courts have the inherent power to control their docket and strike material that is abusive or otherwise improper under the circumstances. This authority derives from a court's authority to manage its own affairs so as to achieve the orderly and expeditious disposition of cases. Ms. Lively respectfully requests that the court exercise its inherent authority to control its own docket and strike the Friedman letter as unnecessary, improper, and abusive. Ms. Lively reserves the right to move for sanctions consistent with Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure in connection with the Friedman letter at an appropriate time. And so then this thread continues. The now viral letter accusing Blake Lively of trying to intimidate Taylor Swift, that letter wasn't part of any motion. It didn't ask the judge to do anything. They say it was filed for one reason only, to get the claims on the record so the media could publish them. And it worked. Within minutes, the headlines dropped. Dozens. Blake's lawyers are calling it what it is. A filing that wasn't meant to move the case forward, but to generate headlines and sway public perception. And they're asking the judge to strike it from the record entirely, because courts are not supposed to be used for this purpose. And then this is what we already read. No matter how you feel, think about the impact. Swifties were smarter than this. And listen, if real sworn evidence surfaces, if there's proof, then yes, let's talk about it. That would be awful, ridiculous behavior. But for now, let's think critically about who gains from this filing and acknowledge that this is not normal. So, yeah. Kudos to, I was just saying kudos to More with MJ, and then the first comment here says kudos to MJ. But this was good. This was a good thread, I think. I completely agree. And then now, so let's see, this is from today. This is the judge striking. So this is addressed to both of them. Louis J. Lyman, United States District Judge. Blake Lively moves to strike a letter filed in this case on May 14th by attorney Brian Friedman on behalf of the Wayfarer parties. This motion is made pursuant to the court's inherent power to prevent abusive or improper use of its docket. The motion is granted. Courts have inherent power to manage their own affairs so as to achieve the orderly and expeditious disposition of cases. This includes the power to strike materials outside the pleadings that are abusive or otherwise improper. The Second Circuit has emphasized that courts should protect the judicial process from being co-opted to promote scandal arising out of unproven, pretentiously potentially libelous statements. It is stated that a district court has not only the power, but also the responsibility to exercise supervisory power over its own records and files to ensure they are not used to gratify private spite or promote public scandal or serve as reservoirs of libelous statements for press consumption. Quoting Nixon versus Warner Communications, 1978. The letter is improper and must be stricken. It is irrelevant to any issue before this court and does not request any action from this court. It concerns a subpoena proceeding in the District of Columbia over which this court has no authority. The sole purpose of the letter is to promote public scandal by advancing inflammatory accusations on behalf of on information and belief against Lively and her counsel. It transparently invites a press uproar by suggesting that Lively and her counsel attempted to extort a well-known celebrity. Retaining the letter on the docket would be of no use to the court and would allow the court's docket to serve as a reservoir of libelous statements for press consumptions. The same is true for the Wayfarer party's subsequent submission, which the court will strike sua sponte for the same reasons. The Second Circuit has noted that court filings may be abused to make potentially defamatory statements without the threat of liability, given that under New York law, absolute immunity from liability for defamation exists for oral or written statements made in connection with a proceeding before court. It has advised the press accordingly that although the act of filing a document with the court might be thought to lend that document additional credibility, in fact, allegations appearing in such documents might be less credible than those published elsewhere. The motion to strike is granted. The clerk of court is directed to strike docket number 217, lots of numbers and letters. The clerk of court is additionally directed to strike docket 219, lots more numbers. Counsel is advised that future misuse of the court's docket may be met with sanctions. So ordered, May 15th, New York, New York. So yeah, the judge is not impressed by this. I wish that they had gone, I wish that they had gone like straight. I wish they had gone straight to sanctions, but yeah. Both Taylor and Blake have been in the industry since childhood. They know how to play the game. They know a statement from Taylor wouldn't be any help. That and Tree Payne, she's so good at her job. Yeah. MJ is a New York attorney who works in employment law who posts good legal analysis of this case on Thread. She's fair but leans pro-Lively based on the filings and facts. Thank you. I appreciate that context. My spouse is an attorney and responded Lyman is pissed when I read this out loud earlier. Yeah, this sounds angry. Like I said, I wish it was like, and here's your sanctions because you've been asking for this for months, but it does feel like if they continue to do this shit, they will get sanctioned, which I think would be wonderful. Yes, I've been saying on Threads for days, Lyman has got to be tired by Friedman Baldoni. This confirms that. His warning to Friedman and the press, yeah, he's not playing. Yeah, he's not. And it makes sense. He'd be exhausted by now because they keep like filing for motions to extend and then not actually doing anything. Like or motions to amend, I mean. They're like, well, tell us that we can change it, but then not actually saying how they want to change it. I would be so fucking sick of this guy by now. I would be so mad. But I also wanted to pull this up. This is a bit of a subject change, a little bit, but Liz Plank has revealed her next big move after ending podcast with Justin Baldoni. Journalist Liz Plank returns with Boy Problems, a podcast hosted by Katie Couric Media that explores gender roles, male loneliness, and modern love with humor. So we've been kind of talking about Liz previously here on the channel as we've been watching Man Enough. You know, I don't super like what she's doing, but I will give this podcast a chance, and hopefully this podcast is less man-centered and yeah. But okay. Liz Plank is stepping into her next chapter with something deeply personal and wildly relatable. A podcast about relationships. In an exclusive interview with People, the award-winning journalist opens up about what inspired her newest venture, Boy Problems, with a witty, unfiltered podcast launching in June on Katie Couric Media that blends personal stories, expert insights, and conversations about masculinity, dating drama, and the chaos of gender dynamics. This project follows a major career shift. Back in December, People exclusively reported that Plank stepped down from the Man Enough podcast, which she co-hosted with It Ends With Us actor-director Justin Baldoni and producer Jamie Heath. At the time, she told People, "We all deserve better." Now she's creating something that feels entirely her own. "If we're going to dismantle the patriarchy," Plank says, "we might as well have snacks and giggles. If we're all going down in flames, we might as well roast some marshmallows." The idea started as a joke from a friend who told her, "Your life is one big giant boy problem. You should do a show where you give advice and help people with their boy problems too." Liz Plank is like the most male-centered woman I've ever met. I've never met her. I said that like I've met her. Liz Plank is the most male-centered feminist I have ever even heard of in my entire life. Which, like, again, I'm saying this about the woman who wrote a book titled For the Love of Men. But, if somebody told me that my entire life was one big boy problem, I would do things I shouldn't joke about on stream. I would go run a block around my house. Kate, hey, you perpetually have problems. Clearly you should be solving other people's problems. Right, bad advice. Yeah. What makes you qualified for this just because you're having a bad time with your male-centered life? Okay. The offhand comment struck a nerve, and a concept was born. "The world is overflowing with boy problems," Plank says. "I want to create a space where we can laugh, cry, and solve these problems together." Each episode features Plank and a wide range of guests, from Heather Graham, Scott Galloway, Hannah Berner, Mary Beth Barone, and everyday people, answering real questions about relationships, work, and identity. The goal: unpacking the behavior, expectations, and social conditioning that define how we relate to each other. You'll glean just as much from a guy who's studied this topic as a woman who's been dating straight men for 30 years, she says. If you're down to dance on the rubble and talk about why we all keep dating the same toxic archetype, slide into my DMs. Though Boy Problems is packed with humor, Plank says the underlying themes are anything but light. "If you're not laughing, you're probably crying, and I don't have time to reapply my mascara every 10 minutes, she jokes. Feminism should feel more like a block party than a funeral. One of the show's most urgent themes, she says, is how technology and culture are shaping male identity. Men are being manipulated and radicalized by the same algorithms that tell women to hate their bodies," Plank says. "Maybe it's time we talk about who's really getting scammed." She also wants to reframe how gender equality is discussed, particularly with men. In countries where women are proportionally represented in government, men have better sex, fewer divorces, and live longer, she says. If men knew that gender equality would make their orgasms better, we'd have full equality by the end of the year. Girl. Oh, girl. Girl. Liz. That was an extremely weird statement about studying versus lived experience. Yeah. This sounds like a podcast that would be in BoJack Horseman as a parody, honestly. It's very girl crush. It is. This is giving girl boss feminism low key. The mascara joke is cringe for real. Men who need to learn to be better are not going to listen to this. Yeah, exactly. This is so weird. Plank also draws from her own relationship history with honesty and humor. "Oh, how much time do you have? I've got a whole roster of boy problems on speed dial," she says. "But if I had to pick one, it would be this. I spent way too much time looking for a man to save me when I should have been my own knight in shining armor. She adds, I hated the fairy tale princess stereotype, but I didn't realize I was still waiting for Prince Charming, and I fell into the trap of thinking progressive men were somehow above all the nonsense. Spoiler alert, they are not. What progressive men? Do you think Baldoni and Heath are her idea of progressive men? Like, that is interesting. That does sound like it might have slightly been about Man Enough, but I'm super uninterested in Liz Plank's understanding of feminism, if I'm being honest. I think I had a more thorough and rounded understanding of feminism when I was a 15-year-old girl doing angry doodles in a copy of Debbie Pearl's created to be his helpmeet than Liz Plank seems to have after years as a public feminist, which is weird. Of course, the only way to get men to care about women is to focus on their own sexual pleasure instead of the whole we are all humans who deserve to be equal. She should call it boy-centered instead. She should. Oh, God. Liz, girl. Another topic close to her heart is male loneliness. It's a slow-motion car crash, she says. It's like an episode of Survivor, except no one's getting voted off the island. What? Huh? What do you mean? What do you mean it's like an episode of Survivor? What do you mean? What do you mean nobody's getting voted off the island? Fucking male loneliness. I could not give less of a shit. I'm sorry. If you told me about something called, like, the loneliness epidemic, and everybody's sad, I might be like, wow, that's true. You tell me it's the male loneliness epidemic, and I think, how many of my friends are women or non-binary and are lonely? Why are we not caring about them? Why are we only caring about the men who it makes go fascist? Really hot take. Really hot take. Young, fascist, angry men should be lonely. They just should be. They should be lonely for their whole life. And I don't give a shit about it. I don't. It's not my problem. Exactly. Male loneliness is not my problem. Women are so fucking lonely. Women have really hard times connecting with each other because women are constantly being served woman hate that makes it harder for them to see other women as people. Women are lonely. Young women are lonely, older women are lonely, women who have children are lonely, because they're not allowed to interact with anybody in a context other than being a mother. Everybody's fucking lonely. Grow up. Grow up and care about everybody and stop asking me to center anything around men, because I won't. I simply will not. That is not what my feminism is for. I think about how so many things had to add male in front of it to make men care about it. Yeah, that's how you got Baldoni to care about feminism, had to say it was also for men. Exactly. I give a shit about ways that we are all harmed. I give shit about ways that we are all fucked over. I do not give a shit about men feeling lonely because I don't believe that men feel lonelier than women do. I don't believe that men are more capable of having a loneliness crisis in fucking 2025 than women and non-binary people are. I think maybe trans people are feeling pretty fucking lonely right now. You know what I mean? Like Jesus fucking Christ. I'm lonely because I try to make friends with men and they think I'm trying to date them. That's a good point too. Fucking if men would have friends who were women and not assume that it was going to be a way to get them laid, they would be less lonely. I have lots of friends I don't sleep with. I don't sleep with any of my friends, actually, and I have lots of friends. Feminism helps men too, and they forget that "too" is the operative word. Exactly. Yep. I was looking at Baldoni quotes earlier. A movement to engage and support men that is only championed by women is like a tree falling in the forest and all of us raging about whether or not it made a sound. What is that man ever fucking saying? What is he ever saying? If Baldoni's saying here basically that he doesn't want women in his Meow Meow Man party, I don't get it. Well, you know what? In his Baha'i TED Talk, he was bitching about how he was mad that his shit was like mostly women, that his analytics were mostly women, because he was like complaining about having like 80% women analytics or whatever, because I remember, because I was laughing and I was like, that's like my analytics, and I know Little Shop of Alley has very similar analytics where it's like high 70s to 80% women, but Baldoni was literally complaining about that because he wants men's attention. He's as Medusini put it when Medusini was watching The Proposal, like he's a boy's boy. He wants male attention. Justin Baldoni and Liz Plank are both very similarly male and patriarchy centered people as far as I'm concerned. They want to pretend like they don't think the patriarchy should still happen, but they need ultimate approval and cookies from the patriarchy for very, very gently criticizing it and saying actually it's mostly bad because it's bad for men. It's very frustrating to me. I was speaking to Kat Tenbarge earlier today, which was very exciting. And she asked me basically, like, do I have, like, a strict definition of feminism that I return to over and over again? And I was saying, you know, I don't have one of those catchy taglines, like feminism is the radical notion that women are people or whatever, because I feel like feminism needs to be more deeply interrogated than anything that you can kind of put onto a t-shirt. And I think Liz Plank wants to do t-shirt feminism. I think Liz Plank doesn't want to have to think about anything more deeply than she needs to in order to have like a little phrase that she thinks makes her sound really thoughtful and wise and that makes men like her. Even this shit that she's saying about like, I was waiting for my Disney prince and I need to whatever, but you know, I just like, I don't. Anyway, my answer to that question was that even if I can't define exactly what my feminism is meant to be, I can define who my feminism is meant to serve, and that my feminism is always meant to serve women, people of marginalized genders, and children. And that I think that a feminism that you can't interrogate and that you can't see exactly who it's serving and that you can't answer that it's those three people is not feminism. It's just not. It's you doing something, and feminist is a word that you enjoy describing yourself with because you decided that it applies to everything about you when it doesn't. Like, there are many things that are not inherently a feminist act. Having a podcast where you describe your entire life as one big boy problem is not a feminist act. It's kind of an anti-feminist thing to do to yourself and to other women, if I'm being honest and really mean. If I'm being honest and really mean, I think that it's anti-feminist to be a male-centered woman and call yourself a feminist all the time. Like, I think that does brush up on, like, actual anti-feminism to me. I don't consider Liz Plank to be a feminist because even now, as she's trying to come back for something else after Man Enough, I'm seeing that it is exactly as man-centered. I don't know that I think she's capable of much more than that. And that's a shame. But also, it's why we need to have standards for people who are publicly calling themselves feminists, because otherwise they get to just say whatever the fuck, and people are like, and that's a feminist thing. That's a feminist thing that this grown fucking woman says that her whole life is one big boy problem. That's feminist and cute and quirky. Fuck you. That is a minimizing and like dehumanizing and decentering thing to say about a human person who is a woman. To say that her life is one big boy problem. And the fact that she didn't see the issue with that, and she didn't say, actually, I, Liz Plank, author of the book For the Love of Men, have something going on in my life that's not about men. She said, yeah, you're right, that should be my podcast. What? That's a feminist? These are our feminists, dog? We're never getting out of the patriarchy. Boy Problems podcast bingo, but every square is everything you just said is antithetical to feminism. Yeah. I feel like doing things that aren't feminist and calling them feminist is often anti-feminist. I completely agree, Jem. I operate that way. I got a comment quite a while back at this point. It was like a couple months, but I got a comment a couple months back on my Swoop follow-up video where I talked about G. Rose Blanchard, and somebody commented on that to try to like catch me out or something, and they were like, I feel like you have a very narrow, hardline view of what feminism actually is. And I was like, yes, correct, I do. That's what feminism is. I think Bell Hooks also had a narrow, hardline view of what feminism is. Like, I think anybody who is actually thinking about feminism should have a narrow and hardline view of what feminism is, because making misogyny slop about a woman who was a victim of child abuse is not feminist in literally any form. There is no feminist way to make G. Rose Blanchard misogyny slop. That is an anti-feminist act. Even if the person who thinks that they are, like, who is doing that thinks that they are a feminist, that is not a feminist act on their behalf. I remember right after Roe was overturned seeing an ad for hair removal with the tagline, "Your body, your choice," and had to go have a cry. Holy fuck. Oh, Jesus Christ, that is bleak. Whew. That's awful. Yeah, feminist LARPer. Woof. Pretty lonely being the only trans person at my job, being questioned on your identity and body, and having no one who could understand. So sorry, but I'm not sad for Kyle who can't get a date. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we had a really good conversation. But we were talking about like, I was saying Bell Hooks, to bring Bell Hooks up again, even though she's kind of an easy pull. Bell Hooks was saying all the way back in, like, I think the version of Feminism is for Everybody that I read was like a 2005 edition or something like that. Like, she was saying this shit 20 years ago. She was talking about how people's idea of feminism is often second and third hand because they are responding to what they have been told by people who hate feminists that feminists are saying, right? But then we had this big, Lacy Green era, this is what a feminist looks like t-shirt, where all it takes to be a feminist and for everything that you do to then be feminist is for you to self-identify as feminist. And then now people still have this, like, completely disconnected from reality idea and belief about feminism, except that they think that it's first hand. They don't realize that it's second and third hand because they have decided, because they thought when it sounded good in 2012 when somebody told them, if you think men and women are equal, you are a feminist, that everything they then do is feminist. And that's how you end up with people who come and scold me and they say, I'm a feminist and that's why I don't believe in women. Not only am I doing this anti-feminist thing, but I'm going to talk about it as if it somehow proves my feminism, because feminism can just be whatever the fuck, I guess. I'm very empathetic towards men, but I really can't understand how so many of them conceptualize I can't get laid as the worst kind of oppression. First of all, skill issue. Exactly. Yeah, you just have to be funny and nice. Like, I'm sorry. Genuinely skill issue. It's incredibly important to be hard on what is and isn't feminist, because there are people who claim to be feminists while also being anti-abortion because it kills quote-unquote potential women. Completely agree. There is no feminism that allows for anti-choice propaganda. There is no feminism. There is no feminism that allows for pro-forced birth. There is no feminism that allows for participation in these huge manufactured hate campaigns. There's no feminism that allows you to make money off of making misogyny slop. Like, people should be allowed to tell you that that is not feminism, but it's somehow like, it's rude of me. I should just simply not have standards, I guess. The idea that men and women are equal type feminism reminds me of people who say that they don't see color and that they therefore treat people equally and aren't racist. Yes, exactly. You need to understand more about the society that we live in beyond, I think it would be nice if men and women were equal. Tell me some things that are stopping us from being there. Tell me some things that are roadblocks to our nice little warm and fuzzy idea of everybody being equal. I don't believe that just thinking that actually means you're a feminist. I think it means that you are not aware that you're a misogynist. Is there a particular Bell Hooks book you recommend? My local bookstore, the only one I found was called All About Love, and I wasn't sure if that was the right place to start or not. I've heard great things about All About Love. I have not read The Will to Change yet, but I've heard that The Will to Change is really, really fantastic. I started with Feminism is for Everybody, and I thought it was really, really good. I thought it was both like, she references a lot of her other work in that one, so I felt like it kind of gave me like a sample platter of a lot of her other books. But it just like covers a lot of ground. It's really good. But the ones that I hear the most, I think, are people say to read The Will to Change and All About Love. Yeah, I'm seeing in chat that All About Love is a great starting point. Like, yes, men and women should be treated equally, but have you interrogated your internal biases? Have you examined the systemic racism / misogyny that exists? I completely agree. Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess we'll I guess we'll check out the Boy Problems podcast when it happens. And maybe I'm being so mean and I will be blown away by some really stellar feminist analysis from Liz Plank, but I kind of doubt it. I kind of think that it's going to be another male-centered podcast, and that it might be just a little bit less openly male-centered than Man Enough was. Yeah, absolutely. And everybody in the chat plugging library is also a very good call. If anybody wants to read Bell Hooks, I bet your library has it. And probably not even just your library, but like if you download the Libby app, I was able to find the audiobook for Feminism is for Everybody on my Libby app. And I also, there's definitely there's like a PDF version available of Feminism is for Everybody, and I would assume of much of the rest of Bell Hooks's work. But yeah, highly recommend Bell Hooks if anybody's thinking about getting into like reading actual books about feminism, because I find the way that Bell Hooks writes is very accessible to me. I don't feel like I'm getting really deep in the waves or anything, in the weeds or anything. Like, I feel like it makes sense to me in terms of it speaks to a lot of things that I had already been thinking about, but it put a lot of things in ways that felt very illuminating and educating to me. Highly recommend Libby. Libby is great. You can get ebooks, you can get audiobooks. I love Libby. I love the library. I love the library. Boy Problems is the actual name. I thought you were being funny. No, it's literally called Boy Problems. Literally called it Boy Problems. I hope like the first episode of Boy Problems she talks about the Justin Baldoni Jamie Heath stuff, and then I can watch that and then tune back out. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see when it comes out. How can it be male-centered if there aren't male hosts? Yeah, it will be bad, and I think it's brave of us to say it, considering how man-centered her interview with Natasha and Emily was. Yeah. I have no trust in Liz. No feminist who deserves the title would stay in the circle of obviously misogynistic men like Baldoni and his friend, let alone being in their podcast. Yeah. I just, again, I would love to see what she does. I would love to see her improve, but I don't think she's improving quite yet if she's calling her fucking podcast Boy Problems as like a 30-year-old woman or whatever. Right, we don't have boy problems, lol. This isn't middle school. Oh, I've heard Everything is Tuberculosis is really, really good, but I have not read it yet. Had to return Sunrise on the Reaping because I'm not emotionally prepared for the devastation and other people are waiting for it. I cried so many times during Sunrise on the Reaping. I don't feel like I'm going to cry as much during Ballad of Sunbirds and Snakes, but I think the amount that I cried during Sunrise on the Reaping is what is having me hesitate on Songbirds and Snakes. Touching on a point someone made earlier, but you could literally walk outside and see hundreds of drop-dead gorgeous women with the most milquetoast men. It's wild to suggest women are so picky that men are systemically lonely. That's the thing. That's the thing. I love that meme where it's like, nice six-pack bro, she let me hit because I'm goofy. Because that's real. That's real. Men just need to treat women like people and make them laugh and, like, actually care about their opinions on things, and women will be interested in dating them. Straight women, I should clarify, like, I'm not, but, like, straight women are very interested in dating men who see them as people. It's specifically the men who don't see women as people who have real big problems with this. Like, I don't know. Sunrise on the Reaping is diabolical. I thought saddest of the series, including Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It's so sad. It's so sad. I think I got really emotional. I didn't start crying exactly at the Reaping, but I was crying by the chariot ceremony, and then I continued to cry so many times throughout reading. And I don't remember crying that many times during the original trilogy. Yes, crying is such a bad trigger for my migraines too. I will feel it in my head for days after I've cried a lot, especially because I was like, I'm not even exaggerating when I say I got towards the end of Sunrise on the Reaping and I was like crying too hard to read, and I like had the book open in front of me and I like had my head back and I was just like actively crying. It was rough. I feel like Suzanne wrote Sunrise on the Reaping because of young President Snowthirst edits. My theory is so I think Sunrise, I think a lot of Songbirds and Snakes was retcons, and I think it makes sense that she put that out first because I think she wanted to put that out while Donald Sutherland was still alive, because I've said before that I think it's Donald Sutherland's fault that we got a President Snow prequel, and I think that's very true. I think she was already planning on writing the Hamish one, and then she decided to do the President Snow one first because Donald Sutherland was still around. And then I think she was mad that people did not understand that the whole point of President Snow is that he was a fascist incel, because there's not a lot of there's a scene where Snow is like being really fucking racist and very personal to Hamish because he realizes that Hamish has a girlfriend who is part of the Covey, and so he's like talking with like this very intimate knowledge about like Covey naming conventions and about how it would be a kindness for Hamish to die instead of realizing that his girlfriend doesn't really love him. Like, President Snow is fucking insane. And then I will be on Tumblr and I'll see a post where they're like, it's so sad that Lucy Gray and President Snow didn't live happily ever after because she really did love him. She wasn't gonna run away from him. And I'm like, what? I still haven't read it yet, but I don't think the point here is that true love could have made him not fascist. I think the point is that he was a fascist, and so he couldn't even see the woman that he loved as a person because she was from District 12. But again, I haven't finished reading it yet. Sorry to backtrack. Bi woman here. Been with my cis male partner for 5 years because we laugh together constantly. He got into Drag Race for me and calls me girl. Right? It definitely like if I know so many bi women with cis male partners, and especially with like cis guy partners who didn't otherwise might not have known much about like the queer community or whatever, who are like willing to learn about that and date like a hot bi woman, and that's fine. And then there are people who are not willing to do that kind of shit because like the kind of men who are bitching about the male loneliness crisis or whatever, they would not be like good to a hot bisexual girlfriend, right? Like the bisexual women don't want that, so they're not gonna be dating those people. Like it I don't know. The fact that I have so many friends who have boyfriends and husbands is why I'm just like, what crisis? If you guys are normal, you land really cool women. So many really cool women will partner with a man. You just have to be nice. Uh, Also, like, I don't know, if dating isn't working, just don't date. You're not obligated to like have a dating partner. You can just be single. You should just learn how to be a person who is single. Um I I have been single for like Jesus, like I have had one long-term girlfriend ever. And at this point in my life, I don't even go on Tinder dates because I don't like the people who I end up meeting on dating apps, and I don't have fun on dates. And like I would like at some point in my life to like have a wife and be married and have a partner. But I'm at a point in my life where like I'm not interested in putting the amount of effort into a relationship that it would take to find somebody to date and like actually be with them. And so I just don't. Um, but I spend my time talking to my friends and hanging out with people who I love, or especially, I have this community here on my YouTube channel. I have people that I'm talking to all the time. I am not in a loneliness crisis because I am single and because I've been single since I was, since before I hit my 20s. I I like that I'm spending my 20s alone. I feel like I am learning so much more about myself by spending my 20s alone. But also I don't think that if I was trying to date and it wasn't doing well, that it would be like that it would be a crisis. It would just be shit not really working out. Like, I don't know. It's just it's part of the weird cultural assumption that like everybody is obligated to have a partner and a spouse or whatever, and like maybe you just don't get that. Maybe that just doesn't happen. And if that doesn't happen, you should have invested the time in learning like who you are and what you like, because that way you're going to be fine if your partner breaks up with you or dies or whatever, because you're still going to be a full person. I built so much of like my sense of self and my personality around the first girlfriend that I had, which like many such cases, I'm not even being super hard on myself for that, because I think that's just what happens when you have your first girlfriend or whatever. But like I think that if I had continued to date like throughout my 20s, even whether or not I really wanted to, because I felt like I had to, I would have a much less thorough understanding of myself. I feel like I know who I am well enough to a point now where I go on a date and I'm like, oh, I hope I like this person. And before that, it was more like, oh God, I really hope they like me. So just, I don't know. I enjoy being single. Yeah, exactly. I always tell people you will find it when you're not looking for it. When I was hashtag dating, I had terrible luck. When I stopped dating, I met my husband. I hear that so often. Yeah, why don't these dudes go out and make friends who don't make them feel lonely? Exactly. I deadass thought you were going to suggest men making out with their guy friends for a second. I've been single for a year and a half and have done so much maturing and discovering and picking up new hobbies. I highly recommend being single, and as a straight woman, it is genuinely scary dating. Yeah, I would be very scared of dating men, because that's another thing is like when I'm meeting up with girls from dating apps, I'm not like, oh, I better tell somebody my location. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I'll tell people will know where I'm going because I talk to people in my lives, but it's not like, oh God, let me take a picture of their license plate and make sure that I'm not going to get kidnapped, right? Like there's different risk assessment, I feel like, and so especially like if a straight woman wants to just stay single, I completely 100% understand that. I think guys should make out with their guy friends more. I think that'd cure the crisis. I think so too. Just another day on the Okie Dokie YouTube stream. We have cured the male loneliness crisis. Men just need to get good and start making out with each other. I go to the climbing gym and the buddy climbs are intense. The intricate rituals men come up with to touch each other's skin. Real. Okay, so it is it's been about an hour. I need to figure out what I'm gonna eat for dinner. And yeah, this was fun. I love hanging out on stream. We might do Proposal Baldingo later. I'm not positive. I'm not sure if I'm gonna pop back on for a stream later tonight, or if this was kind of coming up on the upper limit of my energy tonight. It depends on how I feel after I eat. But I love you all very much, and I appreciate you coming to hang out. And yeah, this is very barely like it. We ended up talking about a lot of other stuff. But you know, a lot of people are just going to believe for years probably without even examining it, because they saw a headline this week that Blake Lively tried to extort Taylor Swift. I bet we'll be seeing that a lot, but there seems to be absolutely no basis to believe that that's real. So just keep that with you as people who don't know shit about Taylor Swift continue to run their mouth. I love you all very much. I'm gonna eat. You should eat some food probably, no matter what time of day it is for you. But yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.